Right, well, welcome to Financial Mathematics, which is the one place where you can say, well, you can't say to me, when am I going to use this one day? Because all of us, in some way or another, we have to be able to deal with money. And here's where maths can help us to understand money and to make money and to not lose money. So let's go and look at some of these important mathematical ideas. Right, so let's start off with this idea of percentage increase. You should have done this back in grade 8. So I hope as I'm going through these ideas are returning to you. Right, so let's look at a situation. Your mom says that you and your brother will get a 20% increase in your pocket money next month. If you currently receive 260 Rand per month, we could work out the new amount of money you're going to earn. Now, what does 20% mean? Well, percentage actually means per century or centum, which we know that this here, all my cricket players out there, is 100. So this 20% is saying every time we see that symbol, that means out of 100. So 20 out of 100. And what does that mean in this context of pocket money? Well, if you were receiving 100 Rand per month pocket money, you could now expect to get 20 of that 100, 20 Rand extra. But of course, we're receiving 260 Rand. So what are we going to do now? Well, it's going to be 20% of that 260, 52 Rand. Does that make sense? Well, 20 Rand was per 100, and this is over 200 Rand, so it must be over 20 Rand. Yeah, that seems to be around the amount of money that I need to ask my mom for. So, let's be careful. This is his increase. He is not going to be happy with just that amount of money. He wants to add that to his previous amount of pocket money. So his new amount of pocket money is 312 Rand per month. Now, show that 120% of 260 Rand is also 312. What is this 120%? Well, if we break 120% up, we're looking at 100% plus 20%. Now, this is our increase, and this 100% represents our original. So, therefore, if we take 120% and we multiply that by 260, what do we get? Well, let's take out our calculators here. So we've got 120 over 100. And then we're going to multiply that by 260. And we're going to see now that this immediately gives us the amount of money that we can now expect. So if we go and think about this 100% plus an increase, this gives us the total amount in one step, which is a nice shortcut to be able to do sometimes when we want to know what the total amount after an increase is. It's also going to be very useful if we ever have to work backwards to say, my money was increased by this much. How much did I start off with? Right, let's look at another example here. His brother currently receives 300 Rand a month. Determine what his new pocket money will be. Remember, his brother's also going to get 20% of his original amount. Now, he's earning a little bit more, probably his older brother. So if he's receiving more money per month, we can expect him to receive a bigger increase. Let's go and work out what that is. First of all, we can do this the long way to say 20 over 100 multiplied by 300. Okay, well, let's go and work out what that's going to be. Here we have 20 over 100 multiplied by 300 Rand. And this needs to be bigger than 52. 60 Rand. So he is now going to get an extra 60 Rand. So this is his increase, not his new monthly pocket money. So his new monthly pocket money will be his 300 Rand plus 60 Rand, which will be 360 Rand. Now, could we have done that in a shorter way? If we want to find out his new total here, well, we can look at 120% of 300 Rand. And now we're going to expect on our calculator, if we do it this way, to go and see, oh yes, that is 360 Rand all in one step. Now, you'll never be forced to use the second method really, but it's really important that we understand at least how it works. All right, let's look at our next example here. Right, Sarah didn't do her chores. Oh no, and now her mother's going to decrease her pocket money by 10%. Poor Sarah. So, how are we going to work this out now? Some of you, if she currently receives 200 Rand, we should be able to do this in our head. 10% of 200 Rand, I think we know that's 20 Rand. So, let's just go and verify here on our calculators that 10% of 200 Rand is indeed 20 Rand. Make sure you check that on our calculator. So, that's 20 Rand. What does that mean now? Well, her monthly allowance is going to be less. So it's going to be her 200 Rand minus her 20 Rand is going to leave her with 180 Rand only per month. Oh, poor Sarah, but it is kind of her fault if she didn't do her chores. Right, can we find a shortcut to do this new monthly allowance? Well, if you remember what we did with percentage increase, we added to our 100%. So now, instead of adding to our 100%, well, we're going to decrease it by 10%. So what we're looking at, well, that's going to be 90% of our original amount of money. And what was she earning every month? She was earning 200 Rand. So now if we go and work this out, we're expecting to get 180 Rand. Now notice that this is going to give you a number smaller than 200 because you've got an improper fraction that we're multiplying by here, times 200 Rand, and we are expecting to see, there we go, 180 Rand. Again, this shortcut is going to be immensely useful for us later on when we start to do more difficult problems. So please do your best to try and make sure you can understand how we can use the shortcut to give us the total. Careful, this is now her total amount of money. Okay, right, let's look at a slightly more complicated problem. If John was receiving 300 Rand per month and he now receives 400 Rand a month, determine his percentage that his allowance was increased by. Now, we could go and try and do this the long way, but we're going to see that there's this really helpful formula that can help us whenever we asked about percentage increase. And this formula says, well, it's the difference between the new and the old. But we always divide it by the original amount, the old amount, because remember, the percentage was calculated on this original amount. So this is the difference, and we're going to work it out as a percentage of the original amount. Right, so let's go and work it out here. The percentage increase is going to be the new amount. Well, what's the new amount? Oh, this here is my new amount. So that's 400 Rand minus, this was his old amount of money, 300 Rand. And we're going to divide that by his original amount of money. Now, look at this here. Why are we multiplying it by 100? Well, this is clearly going to give us a common fraction here. And if we want to make it in terms of a percentage, we're going to have to multiply it by 100 to think about, well, what is this out of 100? So let's go and see here. We can type this all in one step. 300 divided by 300, and we're going to multiply that by 100. So this, if we look at the whole number, is an increase by 33.3%. All right, you can go to 2 decimals, but we know it's going to be another 3 there as well. How would we check this answer? If we took his original amount of money and we multiplied it by 133.333%, out of 100, we should get something very close to 400 Rand. There we go. So always check your answer with these percentage increases in case you forgot to divide by the old amount. You're going to get a very different answer here. Right, so you're going to go and practice these concepts in exercise 1, which deals with percentage increase and decrease. And if you look at these questions on percentage discount, you just have to be a little bit careful here because discount is always going to be a negative percentage. So when you get an answer, you're going to end up with negative something percent. And if you go and look at some of the first one here, you're going to use that formula new minus old divided by old times 100. But when you're dealing with discount, that 890 is the new value and the 900 is the old value. So just be careful of that. Good luck.